Michelle Mwambela is the Chief Executive at the Association for Women in Energy and Extractives in Kenya. She joins us now live from Nairobi. Michelle, thanks so much for being with us here today on Aljazeera. Let me ask you first, we hear so many statistics about the impact, the effects of climate change. From your perspective, how is this impacting people on the most personal level, especially in Kenya?
Thanks for that, Mohammed. Now, in Kenya, when you think about the day-to-day implications of climate change to Kenyans and the people of this country, allow me to just speak to two particular sectors that are really critical. I think from one of the features we've had about the implications on agriculture. Now, growing up, we used to be, aware and, of predictable rainfall patterns. Now, that has been significantly affected. In the last 3-4 years, we've experienced the worst drought we've ever had in the last 40 years. Again, implications of the subsistence farming, which forms the bulk of the farming in this country. That means livelihood, that means day-to-day food, but also just feeding this country. So the food security issue has significantly been magnified because of climate change issues owing to drought. But beyond drought, then we have floods. So you're either in drought or drowning. So when the rainfall does come, eventually then it just comes too much. So we have floods, and that means, again, production and people being able to feed themselves and their families is affected. Now, of course, we need not say the implications of food security on any country and the economy. But beyond that, then there's the energy sector. Kenya has done really well to have its power generation with 90% of it being renewable. But that energy mix has hydro as its second ranking component. Again, when there's drought, that means the dams do not have water to be able to generate electricity. The implication of that is that cost becomes high for generation, and further down that means production, manufacturing, and other uses of electricity and power become a lot higher. Again, this has massive implications on people being able to afford products that are manufactured locally, products that are being used by the people, and the entire scale of things, powering home, powering small industries, businesses, etc. So when you combine these two particular issues, and this adverse effect is felt.
Michelle, I'm glad you brought up the affordability aspect of this. That's what I wanted to ask you about next, because obviously the economy around the world, but especially in Kenya, is more susceptible to climate change. Why is that the case, and what are the other effects of this?
So from reports that have been done, I think Kenya loses about 3 to 5% of its GDP to climate change implications. Now, if we don't do something about this, like I've mentioned, these two critical sectors that affect our economy, and they're the major drivers of Kenya's GDP. If these are not addressed because of our adaptation issues and our adaptation uptake and investment, then that means that these effects will keep multiplying and get spiraling out of control. So I think a lot needs to be done to invest in adaptation to make sure that actually we're able to take care of the climate change issues, which while aggressively working towards abating, I think that takes a long time.
Michelle,
I think if we have to...
Michelle, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're just starting to run out of time. I want to ask you, what kind of priority has climate adaptation been given by the Kenyan government?
From a legal standpoint, structurally, it's quite robust. I must say we have adaptation plans, we have the Climate Change Act, and other plethora of legal framework that would support climate mitigation. But to be honest, there's very little, even when we look at our MDCs that have been invested and committed towards adaptation. So I think there's quite a bit of focus on mitigation, yet we contribute only less than 0.1% to greenhouse gas emissions. But there seems to be a missing link between investment of a lot of initiatives into adaptation as opposed to just mitigation. So the situation on the ground is quite dire, I think, and perhaps the government needs to refocus its priorities and some of the initiatives that it's putting in to ensure that agriculture is climate smart. There's a lot more affordability and access to electricity and energy for productive use and for economic growth and livelihoods generally.
All right, Michelle Mwambela, Chief Executive at the Association for Women in Energy and Extractives in Kenya. Thanks so much for joining us on Al Jazeera. Great to get your perspective.
Thank you.